Welcome to the Daily for Tuesday, April 13th. I'm Jason Seguini with Simon Borg. Today we're talking U.S. Open Cup. U.S. Open Cup starts tonight. Colorado at Kansas City. What do you think, Simon?
It's a replay of Saturday's match, which Kansas City won 1-0 against Colorado. So Colorado stayed in Kansas City for this Open Cup play-in matchup today.
Interestingly, though, they did send some of their players home, including Connor Casey. We're expecting to see Chetri, the Indian player for Kansas City tonight. So different lineups, and we've definitely, I know you have some thoughts on this, Simon, so tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, I hope that both teams really take this game seriously, because when you look at a team's goals for a year, it should be to be the world's best. MLS teams can achieve that status by getting to the FIFA Club World Cup. You get there by getting to the Champions League.
Sure.
The easiest possible path to get to the Champions League for an MLS team is the few games that you have in the Open Cup. So, I would look at it differently if I'm an MLS, GM, would be to rest my guys on the weekend ahead of one of these 4 midweek matches I have in the Open Cup. Because that guarantees you a spot if you can somehow win the competition.
Okay, so the way the Open Cup works is 6 MLS teams enter into the round of 16.
Right.
The game tonight is the start of the qualifying. The rest of the MLS teams have to basically play into the tournament. So they have anywhere from 2 to 3 games to get into that round of 16. Right. So it's 4 games once you're in the round of 16, but it could be 7 or 6 games for other teams. I'm not sure I agree with you that you should forego your MLS games to try to win the US Open Cup, because to me, you're still going to be one of 16 teams who's going to earn a berth, right?
Right, but to give up a few games in the course of a 30-game MLS season to focus on the Open Cup. And look, many teams will not advance in the Open Cup. So
right.
We're talking about even fewer weekends where they would have to sacrifice players for MLS games. I think a team's goal should be to somehow qualify for the Champions League, however they need to do it.
I agree. And look at Seattle, who's in the Champions League this year now. I would just say that in the MLS season, you're also one of 16 teams who could win the Supporters' Shield, or the other 2 qualifiers are the MLS Cup finalists. So you're one of 8 teams that makes the playoffs, and then you have to become one of the last 2 teams. I mean, the argument that it's easier in the Open Cup, I'm not sure I follow it, especially when you get into those USL teams who this is their World Cup every time they go against an MLS team in the Open Cup.
With all due respect, I'll take a matchup against a USL team in the Open Cup rather than having to go with 2 legs in the playoffs against one of MLS's best.
So let us know what you think. Email us at thedaily@mlssoccer.com. Which tournament should MLS teams be prioritizing? Speaking of tournaments, Simon, there's a big one coming up this summer, and the Mexican national team is gathering, at least their domestic players, for a camp in Mexico. Makes people ask, I guess, is that something the U.S. should be doing? Should they be getting their players together already ahead of the World Cup?
Right. I don't think the same scenario applies to the U.S. Mexico will have only 10 of its players based overseas form part of their World Cup team. The U.S. is almost entirely formed of foreign-based players, so it makes a camp a little bit redundant at this stage.
Sure, and I guess there are definitely plenty of MLS players in the mix, and we've talked about Edson Buddle and Connor Casey and Chad Marshall, Jonathan Bornstein, but maybe a camp of 10 isn't the same as a camp of 20 or so. So speaking of Yanks abroad and the Americans that are in Europe right now, column on the site today from Greg Seltzer with the Americans abroad. Check that out. And also, Simon, you spoke to a young American who's abroad these days.
We spoke to Gale Agbusumon of Sporting Braga in Portugal. He has recently been part of the first squad. We have an update on his status with the team. And he's going to be watching tonight's Lisbon derby between Benfica and Sporting. He's pulling for Benfica to lose that one because Sporting Braga, Gale's club, is still with a chance.
Okay. To wrap it up today, we asked yesterday to email thedaily@mlssoccer.com whose diving header goal was better, Will Johnson's or his coach, Jason Kreis, from back in his Dallas Burn days. So, Simon, who did you vote for?
Will Johnson, definitely. If you watch the videos, Will Johnson has a lot more traffic he needs to go through. The degree of difficulty, much greater.
And he didn't have to go against that vaunted Metro Stars defense. All right. The actual winner, according to the vote, was Will Johnson. It was a close vote, but Will Johnson took it from his coach. I'm sure Jason Kreis will make him run an extra wind sprint or something for that. That's all we have for the Daily today. Email us all your thoughts at thedaily@mlssoccer.com. Ideas, thoughts, anything you have, comments on Simon's opinion on the U.S. Open Cup for sure. We'll be back tomorrow. See you then.